Okay, movie fans, you ready for an interesting conversation? We got one for you right here on the Movie Joust podcast. I'm Jason Evans. I'm joined by my buddies Jesse Nussman and Josh Sewell. And this week, guys, we are all ready to talk about a little bit of drama. The drama specifically. The new Robert Pattinson.
It's already got Jason tongue-tied.
Yeah, exactly. This is the new film that has stars Robert Pattinson and Zendaya. It is a movie about a young couple just days away from their marriage. And oh boy, there's just a lot to talk about with this film. It's a very, very interesting
there's drama?
picture. There's drama.
Drama
Yes.
in the days leading up to their wedding.
It is aptly titled. Let's just put it that way. And just so folks understand, we are not going to give spoilers, at least in the beginning of our conversation. There will be a certain point in the conversation where you kind of need to discuss what actually happens in the film. We will loudly announce to all of you out there listening, the 5 or 6 or 7 of you that happen to be faithful devotees of this podcast, we will let you know, hey, here comes the spoiler part. And if you want to dive off at that point so you're not spoiled, that is, perfectly acceptable. Come back and listen to it after you've seen the movie.
Honestly, I don't think it would ruin your experience that much.
That's what I was going to say.
I would say the thing to be spoiled that we sort of have to talk about comes in the first 20 minutes of the movie, probably.
That's what I was going to say is I don't want to oversell the conversation that people are having around spoiling this movie. This is not a Robert Pattinson was dead the whole time kind of movie.
No.
It's not that kind of spoiler.
My theory is it's more of a, and I even kind of leaned over to Jason a little bit before it started. It was sort of I'm curious how much of this is an oh my gosh spoiler as opposed to it because I had it spoiled ahead of time what the thing was. And so I was curious of how much of it is a surprise spoiler versus an A24 being what if we market this as a twist so we don't have to market it as what this movie is actually about?
So if you guys don't mind, I'll go ahead. Sorry, Jason.
I was going to say really quick, remember the film Longlegs and how they, in all the trailers for Longlegs, they refused to show what he looked like, and you're like, ooh, and then
birthday?
And it turns out to be Aunt Gladys's dad, But so I'll take a stab at a synopsis because
go for it.
I tried to split the difference in my print review, and so I'll basically just say that in the days leading up to the wedding between Zendaya and Robert Pattinson's characters, they're, dotting all the I's, crossing the T's for the ceremony. And so as they're finalizing their wine choices, right, them and their friends, played by Alana Haim and another terrific actor that I'm sure I'm going to mangle his name. You guys want to take a stab at it?
Oh, damn it. I'm the one with pronunciation dyslexia. We can't.
I was gonna say
I got this. It's not that tough. It's Mamadou Athie.
Okay, yes. So
Mr. CNN International over here. He knows how to pronounce those hard names.
So as they are sampling various selections of wine, they make the drunken, ill-advised decision to play a little game called "What's the worst thing you've ever done?" and so they play, and we get to hear everybody's rendition of the worst thing they've ever done. And one of the people at the table reveals sort of a record scratch of the worst thing they've ever done. And that's the instigator that kicks off the remaining, hour and 20 minutes or so of the plot. Once some information is revealed about this person, how do their friends respond? How do their fiance respond? Should the wedding even continue now that this person is being seen in a different light? And so that's the spoiler-free version.
I was gonna say I don't think it's a spoiler to say that it's Zendaya who has the big reveal.
Okay,
and it is then this is in the marketing, and it is then Robert Pattinson who sort of begins to question everything he knows about this person and his relationship, and he's trying to figure out, do I still want to marry this person? Can I live with this person?
It's
And
basically
how-
what are you willing to forgive to marry Zendaya? That's the
Yeah.
essential question of the movie, and only Tom Holland can really give us the true answer.
Yeah. But I think for most people, the answer to that question is probably a lot. They're willing to forgive a lot, you know?
Ready and turn. Nice.
The wedding is this Saturday. What stories are you gonna do?
What do you mean, my speech?
Are you gonna use the first time we met?
Yes.
Okay, what about the first date?
Yeah, of course.
Fuck!
You don't have to do a speech.
So you're saying Charlie is your first
Love? Yeah.
first love or your first crush?
Both, I think. Wait, is that insane?
At 30?
So I want to say this thing about her laugh. You know how it's very cute, but it's also kind of
Repulsive even.
All right, so before we got married, we did this thing where we said the worst thing we've ever done.
Okay. I'll tell mine if we all do it. Promise?
What did you do?
This dog.
Beer bottles and porn.
You left an Arab night.
Yeah.
What's the worst thing I've ever done?
Okay,
Are you serious?
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna order an Uber.
Emma, what the fuck?
So I'll start the conversation by saying this. This is one of the most difficult films that I've reviewed in a while because I really try to focus my reviews. I believe that my job to some extent as a critic, as someone who talks to a number of people out there, is to sort of be, hey, you should see this or you shouldn't, based on who you are, based on my description, based on the kind of movies you like. This is a movie you would like, or this is a movie you wouldn't like. And I am really torn on this one because on the one hand, I don't want to see it again. I didn't particularly enjoy watching it. It is so cringy. There's so much angst and uncomfortability in the film that I literally was watching it like through my fingers at sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I found myself laughing, not necessarily because it was super funny, but because it was like, oh wait, can I relieve a little bit of the tension that is built up inside me with some laughter? And those are qualities that, like, hey, let's go to the movies and have a awful, cringy, uncomfortable time. That doesn't feel like a big sell. But on the other hand, it is a film that we're going to talk about. Everyone who walked out of that film wanted to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it impacts you in terms of thinking about, is this something I could forgive? Is this something, who is the good guy? Who is the bad guy? I don't think any of that is entirely clear.
Well, I think we can argue there is a definitive bad guy, but your
there's
mileage
one.
may
Yes, for
vary
sure.
on who it is. But yeah, it's I've been telling people that your enjoyment, in air quotes, of this movie all depends on how big a fan you are of the cringe comedy genre. So if you're like a Curb Your Enthusiasm person, if you're a Tim Robinson person, a Nathan Fielder person, that's what this is.
Speaking my language, I am
Yeah,
the target
and
demographic right
yeah.
here.
And I am not. So as somebody with like diagnosed anxiety and extreme secondhand embarrassment, like I've figured out, like, if there is a hell and I'm going to it, it's just they're showing nothing but movies like this around the clock because it's pure torture for me. Doesn't mean it's not a good movie. I told people, I was like, the performances are phenomenal. Zendaya and Robert Pattinson are fantastic. Alana Haim is great. Like, everybody in this movie is just, hitting home runs. Like you said, I laughed, I appreciated it, and now I never want to watch it again. But I'm glad I did. I'm not upset that I saw the film, but mission accomplished in what it's trying to do, which is to make its audience profoundly uncomfortable.
Yeah, so I guess I'll jump here as the cringe comedy target audience for this movie because I love Nathan Fielder, I love Curb, I love Tim Robinson, I even love the Adam Friedland Show on YouTube, which is just like the cringe comedy to the max. I'm sort of mixed on this, but I I think people should check it out, even if they like check it out like when it's streaming, because it is like a good conversation starter. And
Oh,
I
yeah,
think some
absolutely.
of my like the parts of this movie I enjoyed the most are when it leans way more into like that cringe, uncomfortable humor, and like how put having this couple go through all of the things that you sort of need to go through, or that like most people want to go through to get to their big wedding day, with like coordinating everything and getting all the little like getting the photos and doing the
Last
seating
minute problem with
arrangement.
the DJ. Last minute
Right,
problem with
last
the
minute
DJ.
problem with the DJ, all of that stuff, and like
Oh
forcing
God, the
people to
DJ.
have uncomfortable conversations with each other. That stuff, like I was having a ball. I think when we get into the spoiler stuff, then I can get into a little bit of sort of like what maybe didn't work with this movie to me, which is a little bit of kind of like it's got one card that it's really holding, and then it like lays that card down pretty early on in the movie, and then it kind of just wants to keep circling back to that card over and over again. And I sort of wish there was a little bit more variety in the cringe, as much as I think this is such a like fun concept for a movie of like, oh, like forget even the thing that we're going to talk about when we get into spoilers, of just the idea of like, you think you found your perfect person, you're days away from your wedding, and what if in the days leading up to the wedding you start debating like, oh shoot, do I even want to like marry this person, and what if this person is like actually a night, like the thing it made me kind of think of is I'm sure you guys have seen The Heartbreak Kid, the original 70s Heartbreak Kid
Oh, the
movie.
Charles Grodin one. Yeah.
Yes, which
Oh,
almost
yeah.
is the reverse of like, what if you then got to the honeymoon and you were like, oh my god, this person is like fucking insufferable, and started regretting all of your decisions. And like Zendaya and Robert Pattinson are both actors who are like game for
Mhm.
a kind of dark silliness, which I really appreciate. I would say one actor, well, I'll save my more specifics to when we get into spoilers, but the part of this movie that I enjoyed, I feel like I can speak freely on right here, which is like you have two actors who are very game to lean into this kind of like ultimate, like how uncomfortable and how much can we make you squirm in your seat. My problem just sort of became that I feel like the movie sort of like blows its load a little too early, and then sort of like keeps kind of circling back to the same topic of conversation over and over again. And I kind of wish there was just a bit more variety and fun to be had in what else about this couple is going to come out over the course of these 2 days that is going to kind of make them go like, I don't do I want to marry this person?
I found that, and again, we're not getting into spoilers. I thought Robert Pattinson's spiral, to me, I didn't find it entirely believable. He goes from like concerned to panicked to I don't even know, like insanity or something like that.
Existential crisis.
Yeah, self-destructive. Yeah.
Yes.
And I didn't. I mean, I don't know. I'm not that young. I got married a long time ago. Maybe we're supposed to just think, oh, this could happen to someone who's in these final moments before, one of the biggest events, if not the biggest event of their life. But I was a little taken out of the film by how many times I wanted to grab him by the throat and say, "What are you doing? Calm down, dude."
I will say, and I'll get more specific in a few minutes, but I will say that the ultra dark punchlines to the questions surrounding the big reveal as to why it never ended up happening, and also Robert Pattinson's character's eventual rationalization for, well, if you think about it, this probably isn't a rare situation, just had me going, oh, Jesus, he's right.
You should have saved that. It's easier to talk about that. In fact,
Yeah,
I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. We the three of us are very much aligned on the fact that this is a difficult film to watch. It is an uncomfortable situation for you as an audience. But at the same time, we're also aligned in saying that it's a very interesting film to talk about and think about.
Mhm.
It's the kind of movie that when the lights come up, you're going to want to chat about it. So I think that the spoilers moment has arrived. Again, if you want to see this film unspoiled and you you don't want us to ruin it for you or ruin this thing that happens in the very beginning of the film for you, you can tune out now. Goodbye. Come back later. Okay. Now let's get to spoilers. And we'll go ahead and say right away off the bat, the inciting incident, the major thing that is the reveal about Zendaya's character is that she contemplated and even went so far as to sort of
Plan.
Did she didn't take the gun to did she take the gun to school? She doesn't.
Yeah,
She said she did.
Yeah.
She has
Yeah,
a
okay.
weapon and even takes it to
She
school.
was getting ready to do it.
Yes.
Yeah, to do a school shooting, which is a uniquely American thing. And I think part of the story of this film, and I wonder if they could have maybe made this even a little more explicit in the script and in the characters to help us to understand it, is that Robert Pattinson, of course, is British, and his character, I think, is especially recoiled by the notion of a school shooting, which is just something that doesn't
should be noticed too.
happen.
The writer director is, I believe, Norwegian too, so it's also another kind of European lens on a uniquely American phenomenon.
From the same country as Ruben Östlund, who did Force Majeure, which is a
Yes.
very similar style of comedy.
Right.
All right, so guys, can I ask right off the bat, do you feel like is Zendaya forgivable? Is her character Emma, I believe is the character's name? Is she didn't go ahead with the school shooting. It was I think about 15 years ago or so we're supposed to think, she's had a long life.
It was when she was in high school, yeah.
Right, but she's now well out of she's
she's
well into
she's
their
like my
careers.
age, early 30s at this point in the movie.
So I think
from what I-
so it's a long time ago. She hasn't demonstrated any kind of violent tendencies in those times, although there's one flashback to her getting mad at a taxi or something like that on the
we've all
she
done
doesn't
that.
get violent.
There's also
Doesn't get violent.
there's a really funny flashback to them having sex and her getting a little violent during sex. That's really funny.
Yeah, but
But I think Jesse posed it in an interesting way, which is, like when we were talking about it off mic, Zendaya gets a pass that I think other people may not get.
This is kind of my problem with the movie. Yeah.
It's a lot easier to forgive Zendaya of this than a rando. If they just picked an actress you'd never heard of for this part, I think it plays a little different.
I disagree with that. I as I watched the film, I kept on thinking to myself, okay, who hasn't done something stupid when they were 14, 15, whatever,
Who
freshman.
amongst us haven't planned a school shooting,
Well, I'm not.
Jason is pro school shooting on this podcast. That's what we're
Yeah. You want to fight? Yeah, go ahead. No.
That's our joust.
She never went ahead and carried it out. Now, and by the way,
It's
she
made
then
more
became someone who
complicated
can't-
later on by the fact that that experience also then, she ends up becoming like a gun right, an anti-gun activist,
a gun control
later
activist.
on,
Yes. Yeah.
because of, another shooting happens in her town that sort of sparks her from not committing it and then leads her to then,
It
become
ironically ends up making her a better person.
right.
And more significantly, he's known her for a few years. It's easy to see what her adult life is like, and there's nothing in it to indicate that she was this terrible person. Let me put it to you this way, by the way. Now 15, maybe that's a little too old. Maybe if she was 13 or 14, had she gone through with this crime as a minor in the United States and been sentenced to prison, she probably, because of the way we treat minor criminals, she probably would have been released from prison by the time she meets Robert Pattinson in the movie. She would have paid her debt to society as far as society is concerned at that point. And we're supposed to think that he's at all justified in being concerned and worried about this person that hasn't done anything in decades. To me, that was one of the big problems I had with all of this. I was like, wait a second. I'm not sure she did anything that deserves this level of scrutiny.
The problem for me that we're sort of circling that is like Zendaya, as much as she is game for the kind of lunacy of this movie, is just like too likable as a presence. Like, I love Pattinson in this. Like this is the same sort of like, my theory that Pattinson has just sort of taken the baton from Johnny Depp now that Johnny Depp has turned into a canceled cartoon character is just like that argument's becoming stronger and stronger but the problem to me is like, you see Zendaya and like when she makes her case in the movie, it's like you're just sort of like, oh, I don't know, she's so adorable, like look at those little cheeks, you just want to pet.
She's
like
the cutest little school shooter ever.
She couldn't hurt a fly. But like, in thinking about other actresses her name, like her age, like I don't know if you guys, I'm trying to think of like what movie she would have been in, but she's on Industry. This actress, Malala, like has a little bit more of an edge than I feel like Zendaya doesn't have.
She plays Zazie Beetz' sister in They Will Kill You. So for the people that have seen that.
Interesting. I've not seen that. Wasn't she also in Bodies, Bodies, Bodies?
I didn't see that one. So
okay.
I think she was, yeah.
But an actress who has that youthful kind of like, I'm game for anything energy, but also like there's a little bit more of an edge, and I feel like this movie gets more mileage out of that tension between this couple. If it becomes more so like, does this person secretly have violent tendencies that I'm not really like aware of, that I've never come across in a relationship, but maybe it's always been there? And I think you just don't buy that in Zendaya at all. So you're more
the movie
likely
doesn't
to be
give
on
us any
Jason's,
reason to think.
you're
The
more
movie
likely to
doesn't
be
give
on
us any
your
reason
point
to
of view,
think that.
Jason, of just sort of like, yeah, like this seems like something stupid she did in her past that she, saw the error of her ways and became a better person. You don't get the sense that that's a part of her anymore. And so it makes the sort of cringe, the drama of the drama sort of a little like less potent. Whereas I think if you had an actress who had a little bit more ambiguity to her and maybe a little bit more potential to be like mean and a little prickly in places, then I feel like you have a lot more sauce you get to cook with.
Well, that's what I was going to say too, is like the pros and cons to casting these terrific actors are kind of opposite sides of the same coin, which is, I know, like one of the big reasons you cast Zendaya and Robert Pattinson is because they have assumed personas in pop culture. We know the kind of roles that they play. And the point of casting them here is to cast them against type. The lazy version of this movie, of course Robert Pattinson seems like he would have been a school shooter as a kid. And of course Zendaya seems like the caring fiance who should try to be understanding and move past it. By flip-flopping it, I can see what the director is trying to do in getting you to sort of rethink the baggage that you have with each actor. Now, I guess it's up for debate. What we're jousting is whether it's successful in doing that or not.
I just don't think so. I think it kind of like again, sort of what I said in our non-spoiler section. I feel like it throws down that card of, well, what if your fiance was like contemplated was almost a school shooter, and then it just has us being like constantly circling back to that idea over and over again. Robert Pattinson is constantly asking other characters like these hypotheticals of like, if this was someone you knew, like would it happen to you? And I think it sort of turns the movie in places from being less about that. Like I said earlier, I think it is most successful when it is about this idea of, what if in the days before leading up to your wedding, you got glimpses of what if the person I'm marrying is not the person I thought they were. I
Right.
think that's when the movie is cooking. When it's not cooking and it's kind of awkward, I think is when it's sort of being like what Josh kind of, I think knowingly or unknowingly kind of tipped his hat at with the Ruben Östlund thing, which is like a European filmmaker's anxieties about people in America and are people in America just like psychopaths deep down
Yeah.
inside? And
Well,
that doesn't feel, that feels like it's not really examined all that interestingly. And so when the movie's leaning more into that area, I sort of got more checked out with it.
See, I would disagree with that. Maybe we can joust a little bit because since we're in the spoiler section, I'll kind of elaborate on what I was talking about before. The super dark joke of her not going through with the school shooting is that before she can do it, there's another mass shooting down the street that kind of steals her mass shooting thunder. That is a uniquely American dark joke. And so because she doesn't get this chance to do this, she becomes a better person. The other
side of that is
aspect
that Pattinson then that he sort of muses about, think about how many school shootings there are in the US and how many people probably think about it and then don't do it. They're probably all over the place.
Yeah, however many mass shootings we have, it's probably like triple that of people that didn't go through with it, and those people are out there walking around getting married, and we don't know about them.
And I love that when he has that scene, we see him walking down the street, like looking at every person on the street. It's really I think that's one of the better parts of the movie.
Yeah. And the editing in this film is fantastic. It kind of alternates really quickly, rapid fire between these characters' real world and what's going on in their heads when they're going crazy and freaking out. Which I thought was a really good touch.
I do love the editing in the beginning, especially too when they're both practicing their vows, and you get like the little flashbacks to like sometimes they'll mention something where it's like, oh, I can't quite explain that, but then like there's a quick visual cut to like explain to you. Like there's a moment with like Zendaya's laugh where like Robert Pattinson's kind of like, I don't know, I want to say it's kind of like it's gross and obnoxious, but it's kind of cute, and it just like rapid cuts to her laughing, and you're like, oh my gosh, I totally get it. It's this like adorable little like snot laugh, basically. Yeah.
But what we haven't got to yet, and because it's spoilers, and I think what I think how the movie addresses it, maybe just not as explicitly as it does Zendaya's worst thing, is that as much as we're questioning what kind of person Zendaya's character is, it's absolutely clear that Alana Haim's character is a monster. But she's the one that portrays herself in the film as the arbiter of morality, and she gets to be the one to decide what people's true motives are. When her worst thing that she ever did, she reveals she left a neighbor kid who we just hear her describe him as slow. That she locks him in the closet of an abandoned camper in the woods and just leaves him for dead. There's like a search party and they find him the next morning, but she never says anything. And so it's like, okay, you have Zendaya who, yes, planned, but didn't execute this awful thing. You did an awful thing, and it's only through luck and fate that yours didn't turn into murder.
Well, and by the way, and then later in the movie, she becomes the worst maid of honor in the history of weddings.
Why does she go to that wedding? That made no freaking sense to me. Why she would go to the wedding?
If you're gonna fire the DJ
and horrified by like the revelation that Zendaya was, that once maybe did this, then like she's basically like, I'm not talking to you, but she still should.
She should have. Yeah, she should have just been like, I don't feel well. I'm not. First of all, they don't talk for several days. Yeah. I can't. Zendaya should have sent her a text and said, by the way, you're not invited to the wedding anymore.
Well, I was going to say, if their issue with the DJ gets the DJ fired the day of the wedding or the day before, they should have handled the maid of honor thing way before that. Yeah.
And to let her speak, to let her have a speech.
Yeah. Don't give her the mic.
Again, I had one of the problems I had with this movie was there were so many people, there were so many times where I wanted to stand up and scream, what are you doing? You're not acting like a regular human being. You're acting convenient for the film. And it just bothered me so much. By the way, the affair or whatever you want to call it, the thing that happens with Robert Pattinson and his coworker, and then he like talks about it in his speech. What the hell?
Yeah,
It's
that
insane.
I at least like when he starts talking about it in the speech, it at least comes at like a moment in the movie where it's like everyone's sort of confused about like who knows what dirt about like which people, but the like bit where like the affair that he you know tries to sort of like pull the moves on his secretary, I believe, at where
Well,
he
she's
works.
a coworker. She's a coworker who's an underling. Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way,
and-
it's sexual harassment.
Yeah. I
rape.
mean, it's
He's
it's
fired.
just, I
no
didn't
matter
understand
what.
the jump to that moment in the movie. There you are correct, Jason. There are moments where it feels like characters are doing things because we need to sort of like create a situation to like make this tension worse.
My rationale for that, and you can buy it, you can say whatever, is
He's lost his mind completely at that point.
he's lost his
yes.
mind. But also, we're talking about how this is a satire, how this is a cringe comedy. It still falls within the trappings and cliches of a rom-com. So as dark as it is, it's still following rom-com rules, which is heightened. Like, nobody in a rom-com is a real person. Whether it's the drama
Right.
or whether it's How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. If you look at somebody in a rom-com, even a conventional Netflix rom-com, if you act that way in the real world, you're a psychopath. In a movie like this, or in a rom-com, you're Matthew McConaughey and you get the girl. In the real world, you get a restraining order and prison time. And so I feel like in those rules, the behavior makes sense. But if you're not looking at it as a rom-com, I could see how that stuff could be problematic.
All right, guys. Do we have much more do we need to say about this thing?
No, I think I can make my final point with just like I would say I would tell people the Jesse recommendation would be like just wait and rent this, or like see it when it's streaming. But and I just feel like the movie is at its best when it's trying to be about this more universal idea in a relationship, and to me it's much messier when it is trying to be a European person trying to make a like their hot take movie about a very American subject, and it kind of feels wonky and all over the place, and like it doesn't quite get to anything because like they just don't have any that kind of national rhetoric or sort of like firsthand experience in how to talk about these things.
Well, and I'll just say that if you're like me and cringe comedy is the complete opposite of your idea of a good time, but you're still interested because of the actors and the story, maybe have a glass of wine or two before you go see the movie. It loosens you up a little bit. Oh my God, the think pieces we're going to get this weekend. Cable news is going to have a field day with this. The red face.
Don't they have better things to discuss? We're at war right now. We're talking.
But yeah. I really, speaking of dark comedy, I really want to hear from the parents who accidentally walk into this with their kids instead of Mario this weekend.
Oh my God.
Well, that's their fault. That's
yeah.
I don't think that's possible.
Even the first 5 or 10 minutes while they're going, what is this?
I could definitely tell there were a couple people seated next to me that I didn't recognize them because but even though it was a press screening, and I was kind of like looking over at them throughout the movie, and you could just see the sense of kind of when it became obvious of like, oh, this is what this movie's about. Like
that's what she gets for stealing my seat.
They were getting one thing and weren't getting it and got something else. Yeah.
Yeah, she shouldn't have stole my seat, and she would have been fine.
I think my bottom line is it's a film where you feel like you really want to talk about it. We all wanted to hop on here and have this conversation. And yet I feel like I think everyone that I've spoken to about it kind of eventually comes to the same place. So I think the better version of this film is a film where there's more, where it's easier to not come to the same conclusions. The three of us, I think.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
a bit more ambiguity, I think is kind of
Yeah,
what you're saying.
yeah.
Or-
I was gonna say I agree
cast
with
somebody
Jesse, perhaps
that's not Zendaya.
well, yeah, I was gonna say I
As
agree
much
that
as I
maybe
love Zendaya.
whether it's who she is or how I think it's almost more how the character is portrayed.
Mhm.
That if you give us a little bit more to doubt her and to understand where Robert Pattinson's coming from, I think it's a better film. It's a more interesting film. And I kind of agree. It's probably a rental, and I think it's not a date. Like I think people are going to think it's a date movie.
Oh God,
boy.
no. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's certainly a conversation to have on your first date, but
First
if you're
date?
planning
I
this
said
as-
date movie, not first date. Oh my God.
Oh
I mean,
God, first date
put
movie.
put
This
that
is
on
not
your
ending
hinge
well.
prompt.
This could
Wow.
go either way. Like if you go on a first date to this movie, it's either ruining your relationship in one way, or if they're like, "Oh my God, that was a masterpiece. I love Zendaya's character." You're like, "Should we continue this?"
All right, with that, we're going to wrap it up here on the Movie Joust podcast. Thanks for being with us. We'll be coming at you soon. I don't even know what's coming up in the next week or
Be
two.
patient with us, guys. Like April's looking rough.
Maybe
Like,
we'll throw in some some like Oscar redos, or maybe we can we have some like big filmmakers coming up, so maybe we could do like a Spielberg Hall of Fame, or like a
I want us. By the
ranking
way, I
the
want us to
Christopher Nolan
find.
movies, all that basic stuff.
We could find something to. We'll talk and find something to really joust about. Get your hot takes ready. Until then, his name is Jesse. His name is Josh. I'm Jason. This is the Movie Joust podcast. We'll see you at the movies.